Well, it's JC one more time. This will be chapter 20, my book entitled Todd. I'm a little hoarse today, but I hope you can overlook that. So I'll start now. Chapter 20 of Todd. Todd Daniels and Jim Carlton looked over the books for his hardware store. Jim already knew what was there, and in only a few minutes, Todd knew what was there too. Well, you're a pretty good bookkeeper, but the figures aren't very impressive. You think you can keep going and see any kind of profit just like you are now? Asked Todd. Nah, I know I can't. I just hate to think about giving up. I ain't ready to retire yet. Maybe another 5 years or so. Jim added, I know what you got on your mind, though. Bobby mentioned that to me quite a while ago, but I wanted to make it alone. Maybe I can't. Listen, Jim, how about you just go ahead on for a while? Go to the radio station and buy some advertising the way Dad said. I need to go back home now and discuss this with Mom and Les and see what we think. See if we all agree on things. Todd added, Les's dad knows a corporate attorney and Dad's store has done pretty well. I'll get back to you after a while. Don't sit by the phone, though. It might take longer than I think. We'll see, okay? Sounded good to me, Jim said. You kids be careful going home. I don't think we need to go to the new store in the mall, said Todd. Leslie agreed, and they started for home. In about an hour and a half, they stopped in front of Todd's house. Betsy was still at the store, so Todd decided to go to the store and help out. He went inside and changed shirts, and Leslie took him to the store. He asked if she wanted to come in, but she said she should check in at home. She said she'd like to come over tonight, though, when Todd discussed the franchise thing with his mom. Todd suggested she ask her father what he thought about opening a franchise. What he thought about opening a franchise. She agreed, and she gave Todd a kiss, and he got out of the car and watched her drive away. Todd went into the store in high spirits. He saw his mom behind the counter. The clerk was with a customer in the toilet accessories aisle. Hi, Mom, he shouted. Betsy looked up and stepped from behind the counter and gave a big hug to her son. Golly, she said, it seems like a week since you left this morning. How'd the trip go? That was great, Mom, he said. We met some very interesting people. Todd added, Mom, there's something I want to discuss with you when we get home. That'll be great, son, but let's wait until we do get home, okay? Todd agreed, and they went about their work for the last hour. Todd and Betsy had been home for half an hour or so when Leslie drove up. Todd had called her from the store just before he left to go home to tell her when he would be there. Betsy started a pot of coffee and was sitting on the sofa relaxing when Les walked in. Les motioned her to stay seated and went over and kissed Todd hello. Well, let's get down to business, said Betsy. What else do you have in mind besides incorporating? He asked Todd. Todd asked his mother if she knew what a franchise is. She said she did. She said Bobby had spoken of franchises after the store became successful. Concerning some friends' store over in Dexter and Mercer, she said. I had no idea about how well known Dad was, said Todd. It seems everyone knew him. Were you acquainted with them too? Asked Betsy. Well, I knew him, but not like Bobby did. I never was a good poker player, she said with a grin. That got a chuckle from both Todd and Les. They decided to take care of the incorporation before doing anything about franchises. Incorporation was a relatively short, simple procedure, but the franchise business was much more involved. I'll read up on it, said Todd. Les handed Todd a sheet of paper. She said, here's the name of a good corporate attorney Dad knows. There was no doubt now that that she was an integral part of Todd and Betsy's business. The next week was spent registering the hardware store as a corporation. Ted wrote up a list of bylaws for the corporation and presented the list to their attorney, Jason Deering, whom they retained as their attorney of record. Mr. Deering told Todd the incorporation was a fairly simple process and he could do it himself, but Todd preferred to have an attorney of record in case something came up, a liability problem or accident in the store, a lawsuit, or some such thing which Todd may not be qualified to answer or even want to take the time to involve himself in to any degree. Mr. Daring had to admit that was a good idea. He charged a token retainer fee of $100 per year, plus whatever his hourly rate of $260, plus any charges he might incur if there ever were a need for his legal services. All charges and fees, of course, would be discussed before he actually acted on any needed action or service. Todd was the chairman of the board of directors and Betsy the CEO. 100 shares were issued for the corporation, 49 each to Todd and Betsy, and one apiece to Les and Lola. As it turned out, Lola, Betsy's sister, did want to be a part of the company, even work in the store. And as they would learn later, partly because of her earthily down-home demeanor, she was an excellent salesperson and very good at stocking supplies and such. She, as was Leslie, was named as a director. Leslie asked to be allowed to help in the store on non-school days, not for pay, she said, just for the experience and to be a part of everything. Everyone agreed this was a good idea, but she would be required to accept some pay for the records. She agreed. Now the incorporation was finished and the company would retain its original name plus Inc. Daniel's Hardware, Inc. Now for the fun part, franchising. Todd went online to find out everything he had to know to create a franchise. After about a half an hour, he took a break from the PC and poured a cup of Folgers. He sipped the hot coffee and thought about what he had just learned. Betsy could almost hear the gears grinding in Todd's mind. She said, "Pretty involved, huh?" Sort of, replied Todd. There are so many little things involved in the franchise business. It's amazing. Les asked, "What do we do first?" Todd said, "First, we have to be completely familiar with all aspects of the business, and we have to develop a system to do everything there is to do about selling, clerking, ordering, and advertising. We need to make a chart, a program, so to speak, to follow, and for all our franchises to also follow. The only thing that would be individual is personalities, but maybe Jim and Aunt Lola will even do that the same." Todd understood that this would take Betsy and Leslie longer to grasp than it did him. Where he scanned things once and retained it all, he might need to read it more than once to understand. It took a week to effectively create a working system that could be used by all the stores. This store would handle all the advertising and such. Todd could take care of that, and maybe Les could help some. Todd had a somewhat pleasant realization. He was beginning to enjoy this new role he had. Maybe he was beginning to understand how his dad felt running this business. Maybe there was more of this hardware business in his future than he had thought. Now, this is the end of chapter 20. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back and listen to chapter 21. And till that time, this is JC saying I'll see you down the road. The good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise.